Recreation. Charles.
So the first thing of business is the ROY grant. This is the recreational opportunities for individuals with disabilities. This is what we call a high impact, low risk, or low cost reward. It needs to be, the requirements for the grant are inclusive. So instead of doing a program geared for TR students or students with special needs, it's meant to be kind of a buddy program. So we're going to have a traditional student buddied up with a TR student, go on 2 different trips. We're looking at Jenkinson's Aquarium and Monster Mini Golf. Resolutely, grant's going in the next week, and we should have word by January to go out for the spring.
Good job.
Report was submitted. I'll just touch on the highlight.
Yeah, a couple of highlights of the report. The summer series concluded last night. Our movie, the highlight of the movie was when we received a $10,000 check for our scholarship program.
We split.
We split it over wide for 20. Jazz wrapped up last week. We got all of the 7 concerts in. We rained out of 2 for movies, so we're going to do a makeup movie of Hotel Transylvania on October 12th. That's kind of a Halloween thing. Fitness will continue through September. From the summer camp perspective, we had 37 trips this year. We brought all the kids home, which is a change for me. Really excited. We got some great feedback in the early surveys. I thought the staff was incredible. We did have 3 trips to the ER, which probably sounds alarming, but it's actually lower than most other towns get. All minor, all handled well by the staff, and all things that were not preventable. So we'll take it. Thanks to police, fire, admin, HR, and for making that work. The 2 new programs for the summer were kind of 1 for 2. The Jamian's Park Series went pretty well. We had our last concert on Friday, huge crowd. We raised a little bit of money through 50/50 T-shirts for the middle school. The one that didn't go well, thanks to Mother Nature, was the camp out, which I've been excited about for 3 years. Big picture, July revenue is up $7,000 compared to last year. We took in $23,872. And some of the things on the horizon for the next 90 days include soccer, basketball. We're rolling out a new flag football program. We're going to do a new no school camp program. So days like Columbus Day, Martin Luther King, Teachers Convention, we'll have camps. We have the art show, Halloween egg hunt, Halloween parade, Halloween movie, Veterans Day, clothing drive, tree lighting, decorating contest, Santa letters, and Santa Claus all in the next 90 days.
Thank you, Charlie, for this work.
Okay, any questions?
No, thanks, Charlie.
So let's come on up. There's 2 ordinances here, just for right now consideration, not for vote, but one of them has to do tattoo parlors, and another one alternative treatment centers, which piggybacks on the resolution that was adopted just a few weeks ago in order to be able to accept those here if any licenses are granted by the state. Those 2 would be referred to the River Center Business Improvement District for their input. Correct. And we just wanted Glenn here to give you some talking points on the ordinances and see if you had any thoughts on that.
Currently, the tattoo parlors are only permitted in the HB zone, which is now the ordinance that was drafted for your would allow them in our other commercial districts.
The whole area of tattoo parlors have evolved substantially in our day and age. That right now it is considered an art form, and so therefore I don't think we should be afraid of the art forms.
I agree, although I have to admit, full disclosure, I have an issue about tattoos because I go back to the day when only drunken sailors and tattoo men in the circus got tattooed. But as the mayor said, time marches on and we have to keep up with trends, but I will not get a tattoo. But whoever wants to do that, you can do it.
When you vote for it, we have to get reviewed.
No, that's not in the ordinance.
We're gonna make it.
Next. Alternative treatment centers, and the questions become, if you want them to be permitted somewhere, and so where. Land use, we usually do things by zones, and we can do things by zones if you like. There is a suggestion that you do that's only a suggestion that they be permitted both the HB and the CCD2 zone, HB zone, again, Road, the CCD2 zones are downtown.
Would it be near the hospital? Would that make sense?
The CCD2 zone is not far from the hospital, but it's not right next to it. I believe it's a BR1 zone.
Yeah.
So we could do any zoning, put them in any zones.
I think it's probably easier to say what we don't want. We don't want it in any neighborhood zones, in any residential zones, that's number one. We don't want it within, using the ABC criteria, within X amount of square feet of places of worship, hospitals, schools, daycare centers. And so.
Yeah, I don't know about hospital.
Oh, okay. Daycare centers, schools, places of worship, those are the traditional ones. You're right, hospitals should be included. So we'll work off of that and refer to
Train station over.
Of course. That's a commercial area. I think the logical marriage would be in any commercial area. And again, we're dealing with medical, alternative medical needs facilities which are going to be regulated by the state. We are not dealing with the retail consumption and or distribution of whatever cannabis the state may or may not approve, because you don't know. We're only dealing with the alternative medical needs.
So
Well, it might make sense near the train station.
That's what I'm
because
saying,
people
that's-
would be
yeah.
coming in using public
Public
transportation and you
Yeah.
have buses there and then trains.
So that's important to note. You know, it sounds like, you know, that with those limited exceptions there, that there isn't objection to just allowing it wherever commercial retail is allowed.
So the state's guidelines are what, 1,000 feet from the school?
Yeah. Well,
That's
you know
it,
that,
so,
Yeah.
but we, yeah, so we can add in churches as well,
Places of worship and
And then-
schools, yeah.
not in residential.
Right, 1,000 feet, I mean,
That's
Obviously, we're-
drug-free school zones like that, so.
I'm saying, I mean, or would they Catholic, is that obviously, that would be, I mean, 1,000 feet from RBC is pretty much most of our.
But this is downtown.
And then you talk about, there's 12.
But it is what it
But
is.
that's a state.
I'm saying, do we have areas where we think, obviously, I think, okay.
But that's a state regulation, so
Yeah,
we
it's a
can't
state
take that,
regulation.
we can't take that.
I think that's the safest fit.
I'm just trying to give the areas that we can get into.
Well, think about how many of these places of worship we have in town.
That's what I mean, I think it's gonna be more difficult, I think, to find locations, just given between the different place portions we have, between schools and.
So I think.
Not all for it, obviously.
Well,
but I
look, we'll
think-
take a look at
I
that.
think your marching orders are, just give us a couple of drafts, but what should be excluded, obviously, is pure residential areas. What should be excluded is the state reg, I agree there, using the state criteria in terms of it, because we don't have any control over that. And then give us a draft, and we'll take a look at it, we'll play it.
Yeah, I mean, so the drafts you have before you is pretty much what it is because of just plugging in those zones. It was referred to Riverview, and I just want to ask Jim briefly. River Center, I keep saying Riverview, I'm sorry, River Center. River Center did consider at their last executive board meeting, and Jim, if you want to just chat about that.
The recommendation that came from our board meeting was to basically view APCs like we would a pharmacy as a retail establishment and just to allow them wherever retail is allowed in whatever zones retail are allowed in the borough, which would obviously eliminate residential zones and all those sorts of things. The one thing about the 1,000 feet though is that most of our borough is within 1,000 feet of the school or place of worship. And the state law is for illegal drugs within a school zone, but not for medical marijuana. So I think we should just look at that. I agree that it should not be right next to a school, and I think River Center's board would agree with that. But I think we should look at the 1,000 feet and see what makes sense for the borough. Because if it's a prescribed drug, it is not an illegal drug, so therefore does not have to abide by the 1,000 feet.
Right now, the act, the state act, which
Law.
we cannot supersede, does say that it cannot be an ATC, regardless of the legality of it though, does say an ATC cannot be within 1,000 feet of a school. So, I'm sorry, it doesn't say about a place of worship, it just says 1,000 feet of a school.
I would leave it.
Daycare
For the
center.
purposes- for the purposes of schools, it's only a grade school, grade 1 through 12. Preschool doesn't apply.
It used to be a great school.
Yeah. Some municipalities do have local drug-free zones adopted by ordinance, which can be stronger than the state. So absent of that, you're just going with what the state's definition is, and that's 1,000 feet of a school as the chief.
Is there any way you can show us a map of?
I have one there.
You have
So
one?
that's why, let me meet with the chief,
Yeah.
that's the regulation, let's just move on. Yeah.
Anything last? We provided a report just to give you a snapshot of the activity of the boards. Any question there? One of the things that's forthcoming for the next meetings, the next batch of reports is a development projects list that's going to show you all the projects that have been approved and where they stand in the various timelines, construction, demo, permits, et cetera. So that's coming forward. I'll skip around and talk about entertainment uses and signs, please, Glenn.
Yeah, that was somebody requested that to be on, and I believe the issue was that we become an entertainment capital, we have a lot of entertainment uses, and we're specific in our zoning code that says you're allowed to have an entertainment type use. We have over the years interpreted our existing codes to allow them, and you can see them opening up for you already. We see do-it-yourself signs, do-it-yourself ceramics. We see recently approved an expansion to the track room to another location. So we have been interpreting our existing ordinances to allow them. So in my view, we're through interpretation, and I think proper interpretation, we've been allowing them. So I haven't really seen the issue there. I don't know if anybody else is hearing about an issue. Things not coming here, or things being prevented to the borough that you'd like to be here, that for some zoning reason they're not coming. It's a bureaucratic process. So my suggestion of there was just to leave it as is.
Well, one thing that came up is like a comedy club or something. Would that be approved in this, in our zoning?
Yeah, I try to resist making instantaneous zoning decisions on things that are a little questionable. But again, we've been trying to, I try to interpret the ordinance in a way that's consistent with the town's policies and desires. And sometimes I go to the code committee and kind of run something off, and sometimes I go to the zoning board because they're ultimately arbitrators of the zoning ordinance, and run something past them. So, and I think we've been successful in doing that, is allowing things to come into town that you all have been telling me you want to be in town, and not in any ways put bureaucratic obstacles. So I think we've been handling it in that fashion, rather than actually changing our rules or something. So if there's an issue that people are experiencing or having, that I'm unaware of, we can deal with it. I'm just not aware of an issue.
My only concern, Glenn, would be if the black and white says something and we're interpreting it more broadly than that, then if you're not in that role, or the council membership changes and they don't see it the same way, they go by the black and white, somebody goes and says, well, this isn't allowed. So if that's the interpretation of the will of the current borough or zoning office, why not codify it so that it's clear to people who pull up our code online and say, I wonder if this is allowed, maybe look and say, oh, I might not file that application because I don't know if I'm going to. That's the only reason I was thinking to amend the ordinances to be a little more clear in our direction.
That's all theoretically possible to happen. Sometimes when you amend things, and the consequences of amending, maybe we know we're going to. Maybe you'll have the uses sometimes you don't really want to be. If you're too permissive, and sometimes you're allowing things you wouldn't want. So we can do it either way. I mean, I can certainly write that ordinance. It's not a complicated ordinance to write, but I tend to avoid trying to solve a problem. It's not a problem to solve.
I appreciate that. We've had that conversation a lot.
No. description for our most common applications so people can understand it. And we just try to make some changes where we speed up things a little bit so they don't take you guys as long as they used to. So, again, I think we made some of those, dealt with some of those issues through interpretation, administrative procedure. And I just don't know, I'm not hearing a major issue on signs. I mean, again, it might just be an issue that has kind of passed that we don't really need to address anymore, that we've dealt with in other fashions. But you all have, your ear to the ground, and people will probably tell you things that may not tell me. So, if you are having issues with it, maybe it's worth looking at. So that's one option. The second option is I drafted an amendment a while ago that simply press the delete button on all unused items in the code. I went from 30 pages to 19, simply by deleting those versions. People complain this is too complicated, too lengthy, too complex, so I simply got rid of stuff. We could just do that, or we could go back and kind of look up left off, and there was a lot of discussion being over the different criteria.
I thought, yeah, when we talked about that in the code committee meeting, you and Jim were going to work on it, come back to us with some recommendations to relax the ordinances.
I think we're down to, the last time we talked, which was sometime ago, was probably one or two issues over lighting internal illumination, subject to some sun. But we can do it any way we want. But it's just that getting those last few issues, the last little minutia, just to see the little.
I'd say let's move that to 5.
So we can do nothing, just press the delete button, or go back and try to deal with all those other issues that we've been trying to deal with. I have drafts of several different copies. Yes. But again, I kind of suspect we're at a point where we're trying to solve a problem. We're trying to solve a problem where there's not much of a problem being solved.
Again, you don't know what's not being applied for, what business owners are coming not, or how many hours we're spending to explaining. I know Jim's office gets phone calls about when they spend time explaining to people who are considering signs. So we just have it written down again, clear, black language, simple, not 19 pages, but simple. And we have a couple of explanatory paragraphs. This is up for the most common applications. And if Jim, you can hammer out those last two issues, or if you need to go either way in, but we're happy to do that. I think let's just wrap it, put it all on it, and we get done this year.
Okay.
There is green building development checklist we got from Sustainable Jersey, also part of their effort to get further accreditation. That is something that will tie into the land use department and provide a checklist. Nothing there that is required, but simply an effort to have developers be cognizant of certain green building development initiatives. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that, but if we were to do that, it would need to be incorporated by ordinance into our land use law.
Yeah, there's developers that come to the table with projects that are already doing this kind of thing, so we just make it a policy of our own. It's in our earlier at this point, 2018, 2019, this is the way things are going.
What the ordinance does, is proposed by Sustainable Jersey, simply create a checklist and require developers to go through that checklist and simply identify things that they are doing or not doing. It doesn't say you have to do anything.
There may not be.
Okay.
Yeah, we dealt with that already.
And then, thank you. The next thing is the redevelopment agency proposal, which is included in your packets. As all of you know, downtown redevelopment, is a hot topic, obviously, here in Red Bank. There's a lot of potential projects. There's a lot of projects in the pipeline. There's a lot of discussion about those. And one of the ideas is to have a dedicated agency that is working on these on a consistent basis to see them through. We have to ensure that there's affordable housing requirements that are met. We have to ensure that proper land use laws are met. We also have to ensure that we do the right thing by designating areas either in need of rehab or redevelopment, and that the requisite studies are done associated with that, so we can maximize the economic development and potential out of the land here that we have. I think it's also important to note the riverfront need to be capitalized on. That's something that we've heard from the River Center strategic process, the strategic planning process, and we're going to continue to hear that, and not much has been going on that front. And so having a redevelopment agency ensures that we're able to be aggressive and consistent and stay apolitical and professional in the way we approach redevelopment, and send a message to developers interested in working with the borough that we are also taking it very seriously. And so, Kenny,
Thank you. Basically, we're going to be sufficient discussing this as possible. I'm going to discuss why materials get touched on, when, how. But before I get into that, I just want to bring back to you the fact that we do consulting work along the state, and had a number of comments from other local elected officials about the management enhancement review, and questioning how that came about, and the general consensus is admiration and encouragement of the fact that Red Bank showed leadership, that the elected officials showed leadership to want to be able to identify areas that we need to fix and taking action to fix them. So I just wanted to pass that on to you. It's very positive that what you did was a very bold move, and is positively received by other elected officials. So in speaking of the report, this was one of the main recommendations of the report, was that we focus really intently on redevelopment, create a redevelopment agency. What we're proposing to you is a pre-operating phase where we assemble and put everything together for you, working with the various professionals, and then getting into the operating phase, which is execution. The key things we believe that really need to be focused on, especially in the first year. It's great, we're close to getting the parking study done. We really need to have a comprehensive master plan. Not just an update, but a comprehensive master plan. One of the things we also cited in the report, Mr. Shahadi touched on it, got this amazing resource with the river, and the downtown is turned to the river instead of embracing it. So that will help then set the pattern for having this updated new master plan, set the pattern for filling out redevelopment areas that we need to really focus on. The other thing we will begin recommending working on simultaneously are setting up and establishing design standards. One of the things we had touched on in the past is, rather than reacting to developer requests to redevelop, is let them understand and know, let them react to what you want, what your needs are. So those are a couple of important things. And then the third element is to make sure everything is guided around the principle of maintaining the current economic and cultural fabric of the community. So making sure that this doesn't just go the way of a hobo where it becomes unaffordable for people that continue to live here. So those are some of the issues as to why those are, as George just touched on, how.
Well, first of all, it's nice to see everyone again. And I do want to apologize. I had intended before I left to leave a drawing on the administrator's desk of where and how I take various pipes and stuff. And everything. And I forgot to.
Too bad.
Or you would have probably done it.
In any case, I think recalling back to our report for you, as Ken did, which is kind of the genesis of this, the whole subject of redevelopment goes to the core of Red Bank's identity and was a major subject of our report. And even then, we identified what we thought was an important recommendation for you, which was to create a redevelopment agency. Ken and I both have quite a bit of experience in redevelopment. I've probably done several million square feet of give up any of your power, any of your authority, anything that has to be done in redevelopment has to be approved by you and by your planning board. The redevelopment agency can't just go out there running around making deals and building projects, nothing like that. We look at it more as your tractor, let's say, that's always out there plowing the field and getting the work done in the day-to-day work. In fact, I think the next agenda is most instructive as a metaphor for what we're talking about. Redevelopment on your agenda is one out of 55 items that you were dealing with tonight. 1 out of 55. For a redevelopment agency, redevelopment and development issues are the only thing that is ever on their agenda or that they are ever dealing with. And, I hope I don't have to say too much more about that, but that's really what it's all about, so that you know, when you put your head down on the pillow at night, that there's an agency in this town that is focused, providing the organization, the attention, and the focus necessary. Because believe me, you will stall and things won't get done. I've seen that in my experience. Well, you know it, right? I don't even know, does Red Bank even have one completed redevelopment project? I know you have the little one down at 55 West Front. We're moving on, but I don't know. So, but I mean, that doesn't make you any different than any place else. When I went to Montclair as the manager there, Montclair, all of their redevelopment had stalled. Nothing had happened for 9 years. Became enmeshed in political issues, legal issues, and so on and so forth.
Did you implement this in up there?
What's that?
Did you implement the redevelopment?
No, and I'll tell you why. When I got there, they had already been trying to do it on their own for all of these years, and it had stalled. And when I evaluated the situation, I identified really there was pretty much only one issue that was causing everything to be stalled. And I was able to break through that issue and get things done. We had a shovel in the ground within 1 year. And what that one, well, you're an attorney, so you'll appreciate what that one issue was. People with political connections and business people with connections kept suing every time Montclair came out with a redevelopment plan. This is going to affect my business, this is going to affect my parking, so on and so forth. And once I realized that was the logjam and keep the elected, that's another thing, it keeps politics and that stuff away from you guys a little bit. I instructed, by the way, our attorneys there were also independent in Scotland, who you guys used. But, I instructed Glenn Scotland, okay, those days are over. The logjam here is this, and the political issue and the legal issues. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to sue all of these people for frivolous litigation. And we did. And all the litigation went away. We had a shovel in the ground in a year.
So I have 2 questions.
Sure.
The first one is, if you ask most of the residents in Red Bank, and Ken, I think you talked about our greatest asset is our river, and it's not being developed properly. I think you have most of the residents in Red Bank, they don't have enough access to the river. And to develop it more and restrict that access, I don't think that will go over with the residents.
And I
don't think you can develop it more.
Nobody's saying
Using it as a resource, even as Mr. Shaddy mentioned about doing the environmental trails and walking paths there. But
Okay.
you've got to be able to make more public access to it. You've got very limited.
Okay, because that's not the part I heard. I heard development and
Yeah,
redevelopment.
no.
Michael, if I could just interject,
Okay.
because the fact that you asked that question, I think, is very important. The first thing that has to be done here is to work through all of these issues and to have somebody pushing you, all the elected officials and so on. What is your vision? What are your goals? We've dealt with this a lot in our past assignment with you. The issue I always have fun with, what do I do? And how everybody says, oh, we're a small town. No, you're not. Ed got mad at me because I said you're a city, so we compromised and said, okay, you're a small town with urban issues. But this is it, right? Right. So this is important. And it's you, the elected officials, who have to come up with that vision, set the goals and objectives. The agency is just your workhorse to get the work done, to make things happen. But to go this route also, the agency is going to be pushing you to resolve some of these issues. You're no different than Long Branch or a lot of other communities in that sense. The conflict between people who would like to see high-rise development, parking, and that's really boom in our town, and other people, we want to preserve our nice, quiet, historic type, or our community goals and values. So you got to work through the issues and lay the foundation. And once that's done, then, you got to get the work done and make it happen.
So my second question.
And you haven't resolved those issues yet.
So my second question is, isn't that why we hired VA? As our business
Well,
administrator?
you
To
did.
do all of these things?
You hired him as a business administrator, and he is an extraordinary business administrator, and I'm glad we changed the title. His job and his function is to make sure that every aspect of borough government runs effectively and productively and serves the public well-being. He's only one person. The economic engine that Red Bank faces right now is seriously chugging along. You're going well. But look at your financial reports that we've got, include courtesy of the report as well as some of the financial forecasts. We have been regressing in our development potential and our ability to produce our best resources, simply because in many instances we have not had the human power to try to deal with it effectively and orchestrate. We're managing every department and not focusing on economic development for the downtown, for the arts district, for us as residents has lost us a lot of potential resources and abilities. And I think we're just catching up to it now. And I think we're doing well in an embryonic state with some of the projects that are being contemplated. But you still need the coordinator on a day-to-day basis that deals with the housing issues, that deals with the affordable housing, with financial impact fees, and frankly, he's a bright guy. But he can't spend 3 or 4 hours trying to figure out development impact fees and how they should be allocated, and then meet with Cliff and meet with Fred to see whether or not the impact fees are separate and apart from the construction fees, which are statutory, and they are, whether or not, it just takes a great deal of time. We made the mistake 30 years ago in believing that we are a municipality that could get along with one person doing 15 different things. We now have seen the results of maybe some of the errors of our ways, even though they were well-intentioned aspects of it. Sometimes I think you have to invest money, invest resources in the future. The only way to do it is to get the consummate individuals who are focused on one thing and one thing alone, and that's, I think, what we need, which we haven't had.
I understood, but again, during the hiring process, I thought he had those qualities and was able to do all of these things. That's what my understanding was.
Being able and having the time and resources.
Well, I mean, nobody withheld what the job entailed coming originally. We all knew it. It was a study. So, I would expect the administrator to be able to
And
come
that
in.
study also recommended the redevelopment agency.
Recommended.
The other thing that I would suggest is that if we structure a redevelopment agency like some other smart municipalities in our own neighborhoods, most of the impact with respect to the administration of that function will in fact be borne by the individuals who are desirous in participating in the redevelopment process. It's part of the cost of doing business to allocate part of their application fees toward the functioning of the agency.
I'm going to say that because I think this is, we've decided that we need to move Red Bank forward, and we did that in hiring Zia. And through the technological advancements that he's bringing the entire borough along with, will benefit us all. Great. I think Mike makes a point that in that Zia has to be the facilitator. If it takes creating an agency who's going to help us look at affordable housing and proposed land use and rehabilitation, redevelopment, and how to access the riverfront, I don't think there's a member of this council that wouldn't love to see the entire Riverwalk finally built. That's been on paper for 25, 30 years. One of the things that Ken and I went back and forth on during his tenure with us was the sustainability, the strategic planning, and the design standards that we need to incorporate and reincorporate into our master plan going forward. So if these are the things that are going to help us enhance the cultural fabric that exists at Red Bank, and continue to propel the economic viability of not only downtown Red Bank, but the greater Red Bank as a whole, then I think it's the right thing to do.
Just let me jump in really quick, because I see everything through dollars and cents, everything. So explain to me how this won't cost the borough.
Well, initially, just to get everything organized, but as the mayor indicated, that once properly up and running, this won't cost professionals like developers.
So you would need a little seed money.
Right, right.
That's what this proposal is for, so think of starting up, like starting up a steering committee or something, or starting up a consultancy to get the ball rolling, get the initial stakeholders. And so the initial proposal right now is to get that initial seed money, to have them then do the ordinance, create the mechanism, get the ball rolling, so that way, once the agency is standing and up and running, it can then start to.
There are certain costs that unfortunately the developers aren't ready to pay for. We need to, or the borough needs to develop a set of design standards. Working on that. There's professionals who need to pay for that. Engineering, vendors, stuff like that. The other important element that we are also very strongly recommending for your first year phase is municipal facilities. You can't go into year 20 operating out of trailers.
We've got 2 new ones out there.
They're
nice.
So it's got to be addressed that the investment required into this building, into the senior center, into it's got to come up with a municipal facilities plan and so forth, and come up. And there's ways to do that that can be very creative, especially using public-private partnerships.
So, obviously, this is something that's been really close to my heart over the last few years. The Mayor and Ed said it nicely, and you guys obviously put it nicely. Essentially, you eloquently said that politics are the problem. That's why a lot of stuff doesn't get done. So to create this agency obviously keeps us out of it. And you would obviously say, whatever money we put into it now, one development project that this agency is able to pass, the money that one project is going to bring in is going to cover the cost of this agency.
Oh, exactly.
Like 10 times. So I mean, it's good. Like
We're going to force sales sign quick.
I think this is a complete home run. I mean, obviously, I'm pro this and I have been pro this, so I think this is a huge step, an important step for the borough. I think this would be really helpful for us, and I think the cost would be covered. Like, literally one project that we vote on, the agency, it will get covered for tenfold. So I'm definitely in favor of this.
And it is, and again, we use, the reason why we use the term, economic development, because it's not just about, a development project, it's not just about a housing project, not just about, an office building. It's the economic vitality of this town. We have to move forward and use and monetize our existing facilities a lot better, whether that includes, and I think it will include, public-owned facilities in conjunction with public partnership. Those are the critical issues that, we have a smart administrator, but it takes hours and hours and hours and hours of negotiations and work back and forth, that if he does that, he can't deal with the departments, he can't deal with the public. And it's not just having a meeting of an hour. We tried that 15 years ago. It doesn't work. It needs constant attention. It needs constant initiative. So I think we have to cross the Rubicon and just move forward. And then I'm convinced it's going to be an extraordinary game changer for the borough of Red Bank and its residents, because it'll put us into the next century in a better financial footing and not have to put Band-Aids on which aspects of municipal operation. It just takes a great deal of energy, time, and patience to do it. And again, we tried a situation where somebody, had 15 different departments. You can't really do a full job at it, but he is still going to be top cost. This is just an elementary part of that particular function.
So I do have what the code that you sent me.
Yes.
And I'll read through it again, and I'm sure that will be discussed further.
I just want to elaborate on the point you raised about seafood. One of the good things about doing a redevelopment agency also is that the statutes provide mechanisms to get money to get started and get things done in ways that you might not be able to do yourself. So that's why they have special statutes for every redevelopment agency. So you'll see in the timeline that we laid out for you, one of those important mechanisms is, which a municipality is not allowed to do for itself, but you can do for a redevelopment agency, is to adopt a bond ordinance that is funding operating costs to get things started. You can't even do that yourself. That's not allowed.
So that allows
That's
you to have
it.
access to basically, and the thought process is that eventually the development fees coming in, the taxpayers are going to have to fund that.
So
Get that money.
there's, as part of my job and my duties is to, as you said, work on development. And there's a couple of projects I'm involved with intimately now. But I think the critical point here is that we can be reactive and we can handle things on a limited basis, or we can be very aggressive. And time is of the essence, I think, with redevelopment, especially when we talk about the competition in the area, and not just with surrounding municipalities immediately close to us, but the broader region where we live. Development is happening at such an aggressive pace. There's so much competition, especially among municipalities. You can, again, look at whether it's Fort Monmouth, and you look at towns around the state who are all doing similar projects. They're going after this capital. And the longer it takes us to, we can only maybe have bandwidth to do one or two projects at a time right now. But if we have an agency that is really dedicated to this, we're able to really crank output in terms of redevelopment, I think, and really be more effective and respond to the changing development scene here in the tri-state area in New Jersey and Monmouth County. So I think if we want to get access to that capital and those contributions, we need to move quickly. And this is the way to do it.
So this would spur more development.
Sorry?
This would potentially spur more development.
Yes. I mean, right now, the projects that you're talking about and the projects that you have in mind are for the most part, the same ones I've been hearing about for the last few months, and the same ones that people have been hearing about. But there's a lot of other potential out there that we're not looking at. Maybe, by designating larger areas in need of rehab or areas in need of redevelopment, we can spur better and more, more competitive economic growth there, get more money. Have developers who are now going to pay for this river walk. So when we talk about development along the river, we don't mean necessarily situating a building right where Marine Park is, but by having buildings in the area that are going to contribute to those and make the river an economic engine for Red Bank. There's not enough coming into Red Bank that capitalizes on that river. So that's one example. There's all these developers that are out there that want to be a part of it, but see Red Bank as kind of just hanging in limbo, just doing one project at a time. I don't think that is doing you, the borough, the business and residential community any justice doing it at that pace.
Good to focus on the word redevelopment also.
Okay.
Not
And
just
overdevelopment is a very important.
Oh, yeah.
But
Overdevelopment is very
You strike a good point there, right? Because Red Bank has been
Built out.
the model in the state for adaptive reuse in a historic, community. And we're all aware of the fact that we have limited land to build on. And one of the things that I think Ken mentioned in his opening presentation was, we've got to establish design standards so that we don't look like Google. That means that we have to be sensitive to the way that we're going to approach this. And I think that's the point that you're trying to make.
In a roundabout way, but thank you for.
If we know that we need to redevelop, we know that we need to rehabilitate, we've got one full project in the Anderson Moving and Storage Building that's gonna be rehabilitated. And it's gonna change the whole personality of that section of town. That's a positive for Red Bank. People will wanna come, we're gonna say this smart and all that kind of stuff. If we do this smartly, we continue to maintain the viability and the attractiveness of Red Bank as a destination town. If we don't do it the right way, we're overdeveloped and we look like Staten Island.
But also on right along those lines, the reason I emphasize using the word redevelopment is because you have a perfect situation here that needs to be addressed. You have a real crisis in your municipal facilities. And redevelopment in conjunction with new municipal facilities could result, instead of you just going out and bonding $15 million to build new municipal facilities, incorporating that into some kind of redevelopment plan, or as the mayor indicated, some kind of private-public partnership, or, hey, we have New Jersey Transit in town, some kind of private-public partnership. Maybe a facility on New Jersey Transit property or something, working with that. But
Smart development is my bug, smart development. And as long as we're on that track, I'm on board. Like I said, I have the proposal, I know you sent it to me a while ago, I will look back through it.
But that's why it's important to be, I don't want to overemphasize, be proactive as opposed to reactive. Let the developer community know that if they want to consider Red Bank, this is the criteria.
I think so to wrap it up, I think that I see a lot of people yawning in the back. The proposal is to move forward at the next council meeting with a proposed creation of a redevelopment agency. I strongly encourage your council to move forward. I think that the longer we wait, it's going to be done, if not this year, the next year, the following year. I think it has to be done. I think we have a team that is able, ready, willing, able to continue the work that they started. They have the professional ability to do so. It certainly has a track record with my two friends here. And I think we have to move forward with the now. We probably will have to discuss the nuts and bolts of moving forward, but I think we have to start the engine moving ahead. That first step to hopefully on the creation of borough redevelopment.
I think you made a good point there. I think this is the opening salvo, right? You guys presented, Kathy and I have talked for all of the years that we've served together about smart growth development in this town and how important that is. And if we incorporate that into this, along with our design standards, protection of our historic elements and our cultural fabric, I think it'll be a win-win.
I think all of those elements are addressed in a master plan. We haven't done a master plan for far too long. I said the day is probably
But we empowered Glenn last year to start working on it, didn't we?
not a comprehensive master plan. no.
He's just doing updates. You need a comprehensive.
It's just
really thorough.
So are we generally in agreement?
Yes,
Good.
yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Ken. Closing construction, no ordinances, resolutions there. Fred did prepare a report, which also I think is one of the first of its kind. It gives you an idea of the workload that's going on in that office. Any questions for Fred? No questions for Fred.
building department. The other inspector, under 67 inspections of fire, 167 degree, and 1,100 as far as
So what you'll see, notices and orders, one of the things that we've gone through is looking at outstanding notices and orders and trying to get those abated. And Fred's done a good job of identifying those and prioritizing. In addition to the open permits, we did find that there were a significant number of unabated notices and violations from the past. So we've been able to go to the database in the past and then pull those out. So he's quite burdened with both closing out the open permits and with dealing with the unabated violations. What you'll see in the permits report is yet another 143 closed out for the month. More progress we can say. So these inspectors are pretty good in the report. Any question?
Thanks, Fred. Thank you, Fred. Okay, fire marshal. We're all set.
Yes. No ordinances or resolutions there. He did submit a report. Again, I think we're first to his client. Just wanted to touch on some highlights there, some significant trends.
one of the things that we looked at was we're required to send out all our notices under the fire end, certified and regular, which brings us anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 for each of those notices. So one of the things we're working on with the administrator is to get us digitally correct notices being emailed, which we're going to start doing now prior to being hit digital. But that'll save us some money on the other end of it, and we'll be more efficient inspectors and less paper for I know. We got a guy around here who hates paper.
Without mentioning any names.
The other thing is that we all know we do have to, we talked about this on code committee, we have to tighten up our ordinances on property maintenance. There's some stuff after it was codified the last time that kind of went missing. Not missing in the sense that we just ignored it, we covered it under something else that does not help us. Very technical, I'm sure Zeke can explain that to you, but we need to get the National Property Maintenance Code, the most current edition, adopted by resolution so we don't have a property challenged in court for the inspectors to make those notices and try to get the ordinance involved. We're looking at new inspection software, administrator. We have a couple of people coming in to give us a demonstration.
Paperless software.
I got everything paperless.
And what that'll do is it'll help with the generation of some reports. So if you look at these numbers, it's been very difficult because a lot of these numbers here, in terms of what's been happening with fire prevention and code enforcement, a lot of that is still manual, paper, pencil, Excel spreadsheets that don't really talk to one another. So when it comes time to get information on the property, it's very difficult, especially to follow up. What you'll see though is a very busy department. I think what really needs to be highlighted is if you look at code enforcement, property maintenance, how many inspections have been done and how many complaints and summonses have been issued just in the last month. Tommy is implementing walking patrols now in downtown, which has created a visible presence. Probably get some complaints on some things, which might highlight ordinances that we may need to change. But we did meet with River Center, and we talked about getting the word out to businesses and property owners, clear lines of communication, what their responsibility is and what the borough's responsibility is. Because we really want to clean up the streets and the buildings, and all the graffiti and stickers. So Tommy and his crew have been doing both walking patrols and weekend patrols as well, alternating on the weekends. Make sure that there's full coverage.
There's a lot of stuff that we're doing now. In the past week, John and Frank both have been doing on foot in the backyards on Broad Street, business district. 2 more weeks we'll be over on the west side doing the same things. And you do have to get out of the vehicle, and probably took that for granted for a while, not knowing there's a lot of people that don't live here that visit that are in and out. And Z being here actually done the same thing, out to lunch every day and on his journeys. And we found some stuff that I was even surprised that was not being enforced. Not from a lack of not wanting to do it, but just not recognizing where certain people are going and whatnot. We're used to getting street data, called up on the phone and everything else from the resident, but it's not always just the residents that are seeing what's going on in down.
Any questions on the report?
And you still use shared services
For fire, we are, yep.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
And then court reports forthcoming. They're judicial branch, so I'm not gonna really have county come
All I
here.
can say is that, you know, as far as the assignment judge, the presiding judge, they have no problems with our report. It's a well-oiled, well-run machine, and we have great staff, and there are no complaints that I am aware of. Of course, that's the presiding judge every single Thursday, so keep it healthy for us.
That's it for the first department head meeting by way of reports. We still have some more things, but, and it was a long one. I want to thank you all for that, but being the first meeting, there's a lot to cover. You know, we've got more things that if something's not on this agenda are covered, will be in future agendas. We're trying to stagger so the meetings don't go too long. They will get a little bit smoother, but I think also by investing this kind of time now, it cuts down on some confusion and communication issues and brings all the committees together. You know, the goal is to have more of this dialogue rather than some of the siloed committee conversations and get business done.
I thank you for putting it together. I think that this is extraordinarily productive. All of us appreciate it, the public appreciates it. I think what we've done in 3 hours is we've created a path, at least for the next couple of council meetings, in terms of action items that are going to be on. We talked about it. We may still vote for or against. It doesn't make any difference, but you know, we're moving ahead. So thank you. We do have. It is now. We've been here for 3 hours. It's 9:30. Most of us haven't eaten. I know that some of you are yawning, but since it is a public meeting, there is no correspondence, right? Okay. We will move on to public comment. However, let me just state, this is not a council meeting. It's a workshop meeting of the council, so the public is invited and encouraged to comment on anything that they've heard. However, we will impose a time limit because it's 3 minutes, no more. But we would not be responding to any questions and answers because it is merely our opportunity now and our obligation to listen to your comments, take your comments under consideration, and probably act on whatever comments you have at the next council. Okay? Any members of the public wish to have a comment?
Do we have need for further executive session?
No, we do not. We do? Oh, I thought we did that before. Okay. Yes, we do. So in any event, thank you for reminding me. You're welcome. Remember, yes, Mrs. Stone.
Do I need the mic? Now you use the mic. You can't hear you.
Yeah.
All day. Suzanne VISCOMI, 25 Cedar Place. Real fast, we were talking earlier about the intersections. I definitely want to highlight Dr. James Parker and Bridge is a crazy intersection, especially at 3 to 4 o'clock. I would love somebody to sit there at the corner when the kids are crossing the street. Also, a suggestion, I know you said you're coordinating pickup for like branches and stuff like that, but bulk pickup, I see a lot of bulk pickup randomly put out and picked up randomly. I don't know if it'd be more cost effective to have a scheduled bulk pickup or to certain days a month to pick up that items. Ed, I know you smiled. I'm so happy that we finally got a resolution on the second water meters. I know it's been an issue for a couple years. Yes, and then that's great. It came to fruition. And Bobby Holiday has been great. He gave me the information already too about what I need to be in compliant to get the meters. And I thank him. I know he's on vacation. Zoning, Mayor, if I recall, about 2 or 3 years ago, one of your ideas about zoning and code was to look at Princeton and Asbury, what they had on the record, so you don't have to rebuild the wheel, but to use them as a suggestion. So I just wanted to mention that. That was about 2 years ago, I think. So that's 3 minutes.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mrs. Swain. Oh, I'm sorry.
I kind of like the format that you're trying tonight, although, you know, I think it's refreshing to kind of hear a less formal in some ways, less structured dialogue among, and some brainstorming and back and forth. So I kind of like this. Concern, though, that I do have is, of course, I guess I didn't really know we even have any public input, so I'm glad of that. I mean, a lot of important issues here that I know, I'm sure many of us certainly would like to have some input on this redevelopment agency concept. The zoning thing we've talked about for many years. And so I'm glad to hear that kind of a movement in the direction that we need to revise that, because I really think we should have the proper planning in our town so that all the stakeholders, not just River Center, although I love you guys, okay? Citizens, residents, we all have input in a meaningful part of that. And not, patchwork and not tailor-made zoning for specific properties. Kind of a real vision. It sounds like the elements of that are here. So I was glad to hear that. I think that concludes my comments. But you're covering a lot of territory and a lot of big stuff here. And one concern I would have is that, as a resident, I'd like a little time to digest some of this stuff and take it in and hear the detail. And by the way, I have to agree with Sue's comment about the audio in here. Some of the more loudmouth speakers were easy to hear. Glenn, you got to work on the volume a little bit. Okay, and you got to use the mics and stuff so that we can all hear you, because it is hard. Thank you. Mr. Boyd.
Quickly, do I need a mic? We couldn't hear y'all back there. Bill Barker, 274, Fred Boyd. Mr. Miller and Councilman, a couple issues, real quick. Layton Avenue, that water been running on Layton and Newman Springs Road for almost 6 months. Why haven't that water been fixed? It's running constantly, all out in the street, down Newman Springs Road. It's running there. The kids can't even walk on that sidewalk because of the water is full of the sidewalk. It's the fire hydrant. Why haven't it been fixed? We have all of this equipment. Y'all say y'all got new meters. Why haven't nobody, see that's running, to fix that problem? And it's on a dangerous corner where it's constantly accidents. The kids have to walk out in the street. That should be fixed tomorrow. The other thing I gotta say, Ms. Miller, is I heard the comments, this and that, but I'm asking, I know y'all can't ask me, why do you have 2 foremen in the street department? 2 foremen in the street department. I'm not here to attack nobody, but then you have guys riding around in trucks. How many breaks do these employees get during working hours? How many breaks do they get? Someone needs to look into that. There's too many vehicles parked on the streets in somebody's house. When somebody say they got to run the bathroom, you got to porta john down for the sunset. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to retire to executive session for purposes of communication and personnel? Thank you for coming.
Oh, I just thought you were great.
Okay, crazy.